friends, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to Making Memories Monday. We are documenting October and we have completed through story number 7. Before we can work on story number 8 though, we need to address this concern of the building amount of bulk in this insert. And so we would have 4 layouts left to complete and we do not have room for them. So need to sort out a solution for the remaining pages here. So one thought is that I could just move into the next insert, and I don't think that is the best choice. I could also just pull these remaining papers out, but that would leave the left-hand side vulnerable to coming out. So what I think I'm going to do is cut my paper down here and make a section where I can add a partial page in between, and that would bridge this gap, and I could treat this last set of pages as one layout and then we can move on. So I've got my pages cut here and I'm going to bring in a pattern for this page. So I scored in the middle and I put some double-sided adhesive tape on both sides. I'll pull just one side first and then I can position that, just line that right on up to where those pages come in the back. I'll press that over and then remove the remaining adhesive so that I can fold this over. That will sandwich those partial cut down pages in between, and now I have what looks like a design choice rather than a mistake. So now we need to treat this with some details, and I've cut this set of jack-o'-lantern dies. There are 3 different sizes and I have cut 2 of each. For the ones in the front, I'm going to add some adhesive to the back and then back that with some black cardstock, and that will give me the details for that jack-o'-lantern face. For the other side, I'll flip it over, add the adhesive to the front, and then when I sandwich them together, they will line up just perfectly. So I'm just going to bring in my mat here. That's a Dollar Tree placemat. And I want to position this far enough over so that the stem will not extend beyond the edge of the page, because I think it could be fragile and so I want to protect it. Now I've got 3 here and I'm just kind of placing these so that I can figure out how much spacing I need between them, and I'll just shift that down a little bit so that I can get these lined up. Now that they're on my page with the placemat, I'll be able to pull up the side there and continue working by finishing the back. So I'm just going to line all these up as I work along, and those will be a very fun, different kind of edge rather than a straight page. And I think that will mean that it looks like I intended to do that rather than fixing an error. So here is our center page. It looks nice from both sides, and I can continue on with this. It will be the last layout in this insert. So I have the pictures for this layout. They're just kind of a recap of our 13 Days of Halloween series. So I have a couple of collage images so that I can have all of the pictures, and I need to create a pocket for these. This is just vellum, and I've laid that on top of my pattern paper and took a little stitch line around just so that I know it would be secure. And I'm going to bring that right on up to the edge of that second pattern. You see how the scale changes drastically, and that helps it to be a definite layering pattern. So now I just need to trim the excess around that corner, and this will be fitting perfectly rather than trying to fold the book back on itself like I did last week. There's just not enough room to do that now. So I'm going to repeat the process on the other side, but I'm not going to have a pocket for there. I'm just going to insert these photo collages into my pocket. And you see I did add some tabs to the top there just to have a little easier way to pull them in and out. So I'm going to finish this pocket with a die cut from an older collection and a cut apart tag. I'm extending that beyond the edge so that I can utilize that as a detail on the edge of the book, and then I'll just top that with a star. So this page has more of that beautiful buffalo plaid, and this is going to be just an all over background. I'm going to top it with a black doily, a die cut circle with a scalloped edge. Here's the picture for our story. And then I've got a banner shape. This will help to bring the orange from those jack-o'-lanterns onto this page. I'll put my die cut star here and a couple of the sentiment strips, and I'm just gonna add 2 here to the top and then bring in 1 more of those die cut glitter stars. And here's my number. I just made one of those faux mailing tags and I top that with a little bit of twine. So this is all for story number 8, and that's going to finish off our first insert. So let's move into the second one. For this one, I only added 3 interior pages rather than 5. So I think that will help reduce the bulk. And so for this next layout, I have a very neutral background. And I think what we can do is finish off this one book. I will probably have at least 1 more book. And at the beginning of this project, I did not think I could finish even 1. We are introverted, homebody, empty nesters that live in the country, and no way did I think I was going to have enough. But apparently I am way more funner than even I realized. So we did go to the camper show, and that is going to be our story pictures for this layout. And so I've got just a picture of Tech Hubby here taking a call from Army Son. And then here's kind of a shot of the front of the show. It has a very red carpet running all through it. And so my challenge for picking the papers and stickers for this was that it's not very outdoorsy. Camper shopping is in a big convention hall. And so even though it's camping related, it isn't necessarily like wilderness or outdoorsy. So I'm picking that red and I'm bringing it out to the edges for this border strip, and I'm going to include this sticker. These are trees. Well, they're sort of implied trees. They're just triangles, but I think that kind of works for this because it isn't as naturey as being out of doors. Here's a really fun camper sticker, very vintage inspired. And then to finish off this layout, I just have 3 of these sentiment strips. I'll just line those up along the edge there, and that will finish off the right-hand side. For the left, I'm going to include a cut-apart journal card. I know we're not fishing in this layout, but I did like to have that additional pattern that's inset in that border, and so I'm just going to utilize that as a layering element. Here's my number, and I'm going to make sure to cover up that fishing image. So here's the Happy Camper sticker that goes with that collection. I'm utilizing it here to cover up as much of that flooring in the camper as I can, and then I'll just top that with a couple more trees, and that sort of balances the 9 on the other side. And for the last details, I've just got a couple of sentiment strips here to balance the one on the right hand side. So that is story number 9. And so we did go to the Apple Lumpkin Festival at the start of October, and this was a really fun just street festival in Tecumseh. And so we picked a really great ice cream truck as the inspiration for this layout. I really loved that color and the vintagey vibe of it. And so I'm going to include one of the cut-aparts from a different collection. I'm going to utilize that as a border. And then I do want to put my sentiment on with these stickers. I'm just going to pull this off camera and do that so that I can get everything lined up. This is too wide to fit all in one, so I just split that between 2 layers. Now here is a doily, helps to break up that busy background, and one that looks kind of like a burlap, has a stitching detail. Here's a couple of die cut leaves from the P13 Halloween collection. I'm just going to create kind of a little cluster here at the bottom and then top it with a fussy cut pumpkin with a little clip. I've got a star here, and then one of the sentiment strips can go up on the top here. So that will be the right hand side. It can move on to the left. I need to cover up that, I think it's a chair or a table and a cooler. So I've got another one of those images fussy cut, and then I'm topping it with 2 more sentiment strips. And then I do have a small star just to complete this cluster here. And then I'm going to bring in my 10 for the story and just add it to the right hand top corner. For day 11, this is a Halloween decor piece that we saw at the festival. I absolutely love it. And if we were not trying to downsize and be more minimal, I would have made Tech Hubby drag this around the festival and bring it home. But it was kind of a spooky face carved into a propane tank, and it had a very cool rusty effect. And so I just wanted to kind of capture that blue color. It inspired this layout because I thought it was very non-traditional and it was really festive. So I'm just going to print my picture here as the full postcard size. I'm using my Canon selfie, and this really does help to fill in that full kind of page for this size. I have been working in a slimline previously, and I found that I really like this profile much better. So I'm going to add some pattern layers only to the outside. I'm trying to reduce a little bit of the bulk that I add to the inner section so that they will continue to fold well. I'm just going to line these up. I'm just really trying to get through papers that I have already cut into so that I don't create a big pile of offcuts. So I'll just line this up here along the edge and then trim off the excess to get that nice rounded corner. And this is going to help to kind of fill in a little bit of that space. So I'll just trim off the excess there when I get that in place. Here is the layout with the picture added. I really love that blue color. It was hard to capture because it was sitting kind of behind a table and the sun was not hitting it as well. And so I tried my best to find a cardstock that would match, and I cut my sentiment from that. And then I took a inker, like a vintage ink, and distressed the edges. I cut an additional layer of black cardstock and then offset that so that I could have more of a drop shadow, so it would be a little bit more dimensional. So I've got my paper here, and I did think it had too much contrast, so I topped it with vellum, and then I did a little stitch line around the edge for a border, and then put some cardstock on the top and bottom for keeping those busy patterns separate. I'm going to add my die cut spider web here to the background. I'm just positioning that where I want those to fall. Then I'll press this layer into it so that it is captured with the correct spacing, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of my Tombow to make sure that this will be well adhered. I'm lining that up along the edge there and pressing it into place. I will have to cut off a little bit of the excess to get that to line up. So here's that sentiment, and I'm just going to center that into that pattern paper section. And I'm going to bring in a couple of die cut leaves. I want to balance the outside and the inside edge, so I'm just going to put one on either side, and then I'll top it with one of the sentiment strips. That kind of helps to break up a little bit of the impact of that large orange leaf, and that gives a nice balance as well. So for this side, I do have an additional leaf cut and some sentiment strips. I'll just line these up along the bottom here. Now I need to include my story number. I have a very dark background though, so I knew that my numbers were going to need to be either lighter or metallic, and I think these gold number thickers work pretty well. So now that is the number for the story for page 11. So that's all for our stories 8 through 11. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more from my channel, make sure to stop back on Wednesdays. We always post our tutorials on Wednesdays, so make sure you also check out the description for links to all of our socials. As always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye.